about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So, what you're seeing a lot from the left is a lot of anti-rhetoric against Elon Musk, Trump, and RFK Jr. as it pertains to the measles outbreak, as it pertains to health, vaccines, and Whoopi Goldberg is warning that, quote, people are going to die, according to Entertainment Magazine, over RFK Jr.'s response to measles, saying, this is your job, dude. Now, people have been accusing RFK Jr. of being anti-vax, of spreading false information, and that I was even asked about this on Local News 3, that this measles outbreak was not unusual. So this has happened. We have had measles outbreaks before. It was virtually eliminated in 2000, but it was never completely gone. And we have had outbreaks. Remember, there was one that was related to international visitors that came to Disneyland. And then we had a measles outbreak. We have had measles return pretty frequently. This has taken, though, a different turn now that we have, I think, at least 146 cases and a child who died. But are we getting all the details? What I spoke about on local news, and I'm very, very glad they interviewed me on, measles and what to look for, and I'll quickly review that with you. But are these children, are these cases migrants? This was in Texas and New Mexico. Were these migrants that were unvaccinated? Were these migrants that came across with the newer strain? Were they Americans who have been a part of the current robust vaccination protocol and the vaccine didn't work? We know that the child who died was unvaccinated, but we're being told that most of the individuals getting measles are unvaccinated. Well, then what about the sum? Is most 51% versus 49%, or is most 99% versus 1%? So we need a little bit more information. By the way, symptoms of measles, there's cough, sneezing, coryza, inflammation of the nasal passages, conjunctivitis, pink eye. So if your kid is coughing, sneezing, and has pink eye, it could be COVID, it could be flu, it could be measles. The rash comes a little later. It might be preceded with these little Koplik spots, these little white spots on the inside of the buccal mucosa in the mouth. But then the rash is a very morbilliform, very widespread rash that could come across the body. The child could also have fever, not feel well, and if the virus takes hold and becomes more severe, it could cause brain injury, subacute encephalitis. That could be pretty dangerous. So measles can't kill, but it's not something that we've been really dealing with commonly, because back in the 1960s, the first vaccine was created, I believe, in 1963. It was more widespreadly given later in the 60s, and by 1971, it was combined with the MMR. So we've been routinely vaccinating. But what Americans need to know is, do we need a booster? Why are some people who are vaccinated still getting it? So all eyes have been blaming RFK Jr. on this. Well, if we are having another measles resurgence because we've had so many migrants come across, we've had millions of people come across that are unvaccinated, and this was an unvaccinated migrant child, you can't be blaming RFK Jr. And RFK Jr., what he wants to do is allow there to be more transparency. And actually, I think RFK Jr. has the ability to save lives. I know a lot of doctors disagree with me on this, but I think RFK Jr. has the ability to save lives, because right now, the average parent is thinking to themselves, what the hell? I don't trust the government. after the COVID vaccine rollout, after, all, we're going to be talking about the gaslighting with the Biden administration. We have families that now have such distrust for the CDC, for the government, that if a doctor like me quotes saying, look, the CDC is recommending, they'll say, blow it out your ear or something worse. RFK Jr. might be the one that brings back trust. Now, that's a lot on him. And maybe I'm giving him more credit than he deserves. Maybe I'm underestimating what he could do. But if he actually is going to increase the transparency and say, look, there have been parents saying this happened. We are going to put doctors and scientists on it to figure out why they thought this was a side effect from a vaccine versus something else. And just showing that these parents are being listened to will already start to improve trust. Saying, look, we understand that there are foods with preservatives in them that are not healthy for you. We're going to figure out why and stop that. If a vaccine preservative like thimerosal are making parents concerned, here's the data on thimerosal. And if we don't need to use it, we'll remove it. So the idea that, RFK Jr. is going to kill people, there needs to be a rehaul, a reset, and or an overhaul, I should say, of how we're doing things, because at this point, parents are educating themselves, and some are being misinformed, some are being informed by they're looking at the studies themselves going, well, what the heck? Why isn't the CDC discussing this? When there were people dying when they were getting the COVID vaccine, like that doctor, that OB in Florida, other doctors were saying, don't bring that up on your show. You're going to scare people. I'm like, so you want me to hide information? I think the COVID vaccine helps save lives, but I'm not going to hide. That's misinformation if I only give people one side. I need to show them both sides. So I think that there could be some pretty, a lot of good coming out of this if RFK Jr. increases trust of the CDC. 1-877-Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. And by the way, if you ever do miss any of our shows, go to our website at drdaliah.com. Okay, so, you know, I just want our country to move forward. I understand a lot of people are going back and forth between Biden and Trump, but I'm a physician. I need people to trust the government. I need, if the CDC says something, we can trust it. We're here battling vaccine hesitancy and measles outbreak and, border issues. And there's so much going on, and all the media could talk about is the back and forth, the pro Elon Musk, anti Elon Musk, pro Trump, anti Trump. And we need to realize that the reason why we're here today is because of the previous administration. You guys hear this term gaslighting, and some of you still don't know what that means. It took me a while. Gaslighting isn't necessarily just lying. Gaslighting is you being made to feel that you are in the wrong or something's wrong with you if you don't buy what's being said. So let's say somebody's cheating on you and you're like, you're cheating on me. And they're like, no, you're crazy. You're paranoid. This is all in your head. And you're like, well, maybe it is all in my head. That's being gaslighted. And so an aide, a Biden insider, has said, look, the administration was gaslighting people since day one, since they knew that Biden was not fit for office. Now, any one of us who saw the 2020 campaign knew that was an issue. And I was wondering why the Democrats weren't putting somebody else up. Why were they going with Biden? They could have gone with anybody. And you saw him struggle. You saw Obama have to help him on the trail. You know, they could have come up with somebody else, but they doubled down on Biden and were like, but something's not right. Well, what happened when we brought that up? Well, we were accused of being racist. We were accused of being bigoted. We were accused of all these things. And so we were gaslighted. And here we are today, where people are now very, very upset with what Trump is doing and how he's getting so much done and how he's working quickly. And it's because we just went through 4 years of, no, Biden's doing things, and we come to find out things weren't done. So what we found out was, let me see if we have the name. A former Biden official accused his colleagues of gaslighting journalists and voters, denying the truth of the president's advancing age and frailty. And I don't know if I actually have the name. Yes. Jill Biden's former press secretary, Michael LaRosa, said much of the blame should be leveled at officials who attacked anyone asking questions about Biden's age. And he described how officials were terrified of exposing the increasingly gaffe-prone president to the press. That's according to Daily Mail. He told the Scientific Institute at American University that we were always from day one cognizant that age was an issue. I don't want to say age because we have a lot of individuals in their 80s. Nancy Pelosi is older than Biden and didn't look like this. So they keep saying age because they don't want to diagnose him with mental competency issues and cognitive issues. But it was decline. He was declining. All right. If you don't want to say age or dementia, you could say he was declining. And so as an American, as a doctor, okay, I need people to trust what I say. I need people to trust what the CDC says. I need people to trust if there is an outbreak, or if there is, let's say, initiative, public health initiative that we need people to listen to because things could be going the wrong way. Now we have people thinking that everything was a lie. Once somebody lies, they're called a liar. Once a petri dish is contaminated in the lab, that whole dish is contaminated. You can't just scrape off the contamination. And possibly the study could be contaminated. So once you have even the Biden administration from within saying, look, we were lying. Okay, we were hiding stuff from you. We made you feel a certain way. Now everybody's taking a step back going, well, wait a second. What the hell else were we told? Now, Elon Musk saying, we want to know what you did in these 5 bullet points. And it's very difficult for people who work in the State Department or FBI and the Pentagon without accidentally inferring something that could be classified. Even if it's not classified, if you say, well, I was last week in San Antonio, why? Are you about to do a raid in San Antonio? So you got to be really, really careful what you're eliciting in this. But the reason why Elon Musk is doing that is because we just had 4 years of lack of productivity. And so he wants to know, what are you doing? One of the reasons why Trump is always out there with the press conferences is he doesn't want anyone to say he's not working. In fact, I don't think he's taken one vacation or one day off. He has every day been in front of the news or doing something so that he can not be blamed for not working or for hiding. And he's trying to set a precedent that the next president, whether it's Vance or Newsom or whoever, is going to have to bust their butt. They can't be always going to Delaware. They can't be always saying, no, the president can't speak to you today. And the thing is when people said, look, there's something wrong, we were made to feel bad. We were shadow banned. We were, we were censored online. And it took George Clooney, who probably was worried about his reputation, saying, look, I can't act like he's, strong enough to be commander in chief. And I think when people started to look at their own reputation, they're like, I got to do something. Obama doesn't care. Obama was already president. So, he just did what the Democrats wanted him to do. He supported Biden, etc. He was, but George Clooney's like, look, I still, I might want to run for office. And if everybody sees what I see, I'm looking like I'm lying. And it took people worried about their own skin to say something. And so, here we are now where Elon Musk is, well, you need to show us what you're doing. You need to tell us what you're doing. Why do you still need a job? Are you goofing around? Are you going to Delaware? Are you in a basement? Are you, what work are you doing? And every employee got it. I'm sure Pete Hegseth, I'm sure Gabby Tolstert, all of them got that. What work are you doing? I'm looking at Senator Marco Rubio. Boy, is he busting his butt as Secretary of State. He looked exhausted, but he's getting stuff done. He's traveling. Everybody looks like they're working, and it's really starting to change the work ethic. In fact, my heart is beating faster because I'm like, okay, I think I have more to do. Stuff is getting done. But the problem we have is while we're looking at what do we do now in terms of the flu shot, in terms of the CDC, in terms of the measles outbreak, in terms of vaccines and vaccine hesitancy or side effects, in terms of pharmaceuticals, in terms of money needing to be spent, on research versus on reimbursing people for their $1,000 weight loss shots. We need to know that whoever's at the helm is doing their job and is cognizant, is competent, is cognitively healthy, and is doing what's best for America. And I felt bad for Biden. I think the Biden administration hurt Biden because I think he aged faster than he needed to. He could have been on medication. He could have gotten MRIs. He could have gotten neurological and psychological testing. He could have started to enjoy his life more. Instead, he left this office beaten, replaced by Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris, in her defense, didn't get to do much as vice president, whether she didn't want to or she was sidelined. And so she made a poor showing, and it hurt the Democrats. It hurt Americans. And now people are going, well, we were lied to. You can't lie to the American public. Once they think a politician lies, they don't trust politicians. And the problem is politicians put themselves in such degrees of power and such platforms of power that we have to work with politicians. So if a politician says, don't worry, we're not going to make you get the vaccine, we're not going to say, show us your papers, then why in California were people kicked out of a restaurant because they didn't have a COVID vaccine? Why were doctors kicking patients out of their office saying you weren't vaccinated, get out? I thought you just promised that wasn't going to happen. So there's no trust. So now President Trump's in, and some people are saying, well, we don't trust him. He might become a dictator, or nobody is trusting anything anymore. So how do we get that trust back? Well, transparency. This is what we're doing. This is what we saw that was spent. This is what we're going to cut. Right? This is the work that wasn't done. This is the work that is getting done. We're not going to give federal employees a free pass. If you guys are worried that this administration is going to take the federal employees and turn them into their own army, they're not, because they're firing the federal employees who aren't working or who might not be showing productivity. So, we're in this position, where we're all unsettled and there's a lot of distrust. So we need this administration to regain the trust. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So if you haven't heard the audio, things are not going too well. They're going well for Trump, not going too well for Zelensky at the White House. Apparently, Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky had a press conference. And in the middle of the press conference, it got very, very heated. And Trump is very frustrated with Zelensky. And he basically said that he's gambling with World War III. J.D. Vance spoke up and said, did you ever once thank us for trying to help you? And so this got pretty, I've been watching the video. It's, wow. I've been watching what's happened since Putin invaded Ukraine. I've been praying for this war to stop. I have been praying for lives to be saved. I think what Putin and his militia did to Ukrainians and the invasion should have never happened. I pray that Ukraine will be able to, and boy, have they been able to show a fight. But it has been revealed and made very, very clear that America played the biggest role in Ukraine still being able to survive such a huge enemy as Putin. And this deal, this mineral deal, allows the U.S. to share with their citizens and with their voters, look, we get something back. We're not just going to continue for a 4th year dump money into, 3 going on 4 years, dump money into the war. And Zelensky is not in a good position right now because without the U.S., he's going to lose. And if the other countries aren't coming in to help him, he's in trouble. I'm not too sure what's going on with elections, and I think there's still a lot of refugees that are in Poland and in Europe. And so many of the people who would vote for him to continue to stay in power are not in the country. And it's a wartime country. It's a wartime country. There's a lot going on right now. But Trump wants the war to end. That's his main goal. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize, my guess. He wants to show that he stopped this war and he prevented World War III. Everybody said that there's going to be World War III with Trump. And he wants to show he's doing the opposite. But if everybody doesn't play along, he's going to be mad. And if Ukraine continues not wanting to negotiate, Trump is going to pull funding. He is going to pull support. And Ukraine is now in this precarious position where they and here's the thing. Okay, I've seen enough Apprentice and I watched Trump in his first term to know what's going to happen. If Trump is going to be giving Ukraine a deal, this deal might not look very attractive, but it's the best deal on the table now, because the more Zelensky gets on Trump's nerves and the more there's this back and forth, the deal's going to get smaller and smaller. And if Zelensky goes, you know what, fine, I'll take the original deal, Trump's like, no, you're going to do what I say now. And so this is where we're at. Putin, it'll be interesting to see how Trump deals with Putin. But Zelensky is an easier person for Trump to deal with at this point because the Ukraine needs America. And when you look at the size of Putin's army, when you look at the size of Russia, when you look at Russia combining with China and North Korea to Ukraine, who does have European help and does have a lot of American help, it's still they could fall if we don't keep, and it's still prolonged. They haven't won the war. Gosh, they have grit. Boy, do they have passion for their country. And I really hope Ukraine can have peace and could retain most of their border. I really do. But at this point, Trump wants this war done. Trump needs to move on. He wants to move on and fix the Middle East, get the hostages back. He wants to make sure Putin backs down. He needs to make sure that his 4 years, less than 4 years now, is of peace. And he wants to show that he brought that on. And it is going to be non-peaceful for the individuals involved. Right now, that's his goal. His goal is to show that he's the one that stopped this. And if people don't understand that, it's not going to go very far. Because Trump's not going to stop until this war stops. So whatever deal is on the table now, Zelensky does not have much bargaining power. And I feel bad for Ukraine. Ukraine did not ask for this war. They didn't ask. Putin invaded him. But the U.S. saved Ukraine. And I think we all did. We all, with our prayers and with our support, we all have supported the Ukraine side of the war. But when does it end? And if there is a potential for Trump to stop it, and I understand, I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are surrounded by people who lose money gambling. Some win, some lose. And when somebody loses something, their goal switches to getting that back. The psychology behind losing something is you want to get them back. And that is why the death of a family member or friend or loved one is so hard, because there is no opportunity to get that back. Whereas you break up with a loved one, there's still wiggle room. Or you lose a job, or there's something else that could fill that void. So Ukraine wants to get their land back, get their territory back. Putin wants to get his territory back that was pre-Soviet Union, fall of Soviet Union. So everybody wants something back. There is room for negotiation, but it's not easy. And I like Vladimir Zelensky. I think he is one tough guy. Like I said, a lot of grit. These guys, the Ukrainians have shown amazing dedication to preserving this country and putting up a fight. But the world is ready for this to end. They don't want a 20-year war. They can't afford it. Somebody is finally saying, with all the money that we're spending, we can't afford it. And my biggest fear is we have Americans saying, to heck with all foreign countries, it should all be about America. Well, we can't do that yet because we still have to get our hostages out of Hamas. We still need to support Israel, who provides America intelligence of what's going on with the Middle East, not to mention a free helicopter pad in the Middle East for Americans to come safely and be able to, whether they're military or not, to do what they need to do in the Middle East. So we don't want to turn our back on any allies. But right now, people are so sick of the money being spent that they're like, look, we have homeless people in the streets. We have people that can't go to the a medical clinic or hospital. There's no beds. There's no money. We're overrun. So fixing our border, building up our hospital infrastructure, being smart about what we're spending. If we have two choices, to continue to throw money at Ukraine and dump money into Ukraine and a war that may never end, or to stop the war, what do you think Americans would rather do? Stop the war. And people are saying Trump is being mean. Trump is taking advantage with these rare minerals. No, Trump wants some of the money back. And it is going to still take money during the process of ending the war. Ukraine still wants aid. So how do you ensure and lock America in for the aid? In fact, this is a good move for Vladimir Zelensky. For Vladimir Zelensky, it looks like he and Trump don't have a good relationship. And Trump can at any time say, to hell with you. You might really want to have something set in stone, no pun intended, where you have this alliance. Now, people say, oh, this is horrible, this is horrible. Well, didn't we have deals during World War II, with where I think America got islands from Great Britain and, in return for, military support. So we'll see what happens. But when you watch a video, you'll be like, wow, 1877 Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
On the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1877 Dr. Daliah, 1877 DOCDALI. So the International Space Station may be too clean. And scientists are thinking that if it were a little dirty, people stuck and trapped like Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore might have a better health outcome. It's fascinating. So as you know, we have 2 astronauts stranded on the International Space Station. They arrived on June 6th, where I believe only supposed to be there for, 8 days? And here they are stuck because they could not be on the vessel that took them back. They sent a message to those worried about them saying, we're thankful for your support. Now, Elon Musk and Starliner, I guess, I guess Elon Musk was supposed to be sending a Starliner crew or a SpaceX spacecraft to help him. The two astronauts have been on the International Space Station now for 266 days. We are hoping they will come back on the SpaceX spacecraft in March. Okay, so that should be coming up in the next few weeks. They don't feel stranded though. They are very grateful, and they need to play it safe. They're stuck out there. Okay, so they don't want to get involved in politics. But my guess is once they get home, I'm sure their families will hear an earful. And they have been smiling, and on video they've been very, very, positive about it. But Americans are concerned because they don't look as healthy. NASA and Boeing spent months trying to fix helium leaks and other issues. But the capsule, the Boeing Starliner they were supposed to take back, was plagued with issues. It was deemed unsafe, sent back to Earth in September without them. And so they were only supposed to be there for, I think, no more than a week. So they have a backup plan. There's supposed to be this transition of individuals taking over for them on the space station. I don't know why that has to take days. Just go, hey, guys. I mean, when nurses give report, they need to get the heck out of Dodge. They go through the patients. They take the time necessary. But we could do it, in a shorter period of time if we have to get them home. But NASA announced that Williams and Wilmore should be coming home around March 19th or 20th. When they do come home, they probably are going to be needing some medical care. And I hope to God they're okay, and I hope we could get them back. But most of the missions, from what I'm hearing on the International Space Station, don't usually last longer than 6 months because the low gravity really affects your bones. It affects your body's function. Our bodies were not designed to be in low gravity situations or no gravity situations. So we need those pressures from Earth. That Newton's law that brings us, that where gravity puts that pressure on our bones and muscles and heart. And so you also have an environment, we're being told, that doesn't really replicate America, where the International Space Station is so clean, so people can't get COVID or flu or bacteria, that might be hurting individuals as well. According to The Telegraph, space agencies have strict sterilization protocols with equipment and modules built in, sealed off clean rooms, and astronauts forced to isolate before venturing into orbit. But a new study from the University of California suggests that this extreme disinfection may be doing more harm than good. Astronauts experience immune dysfunction, skin rashes, other inflammatory conditions when traveling in space. Now, many of us have bacteria on our bodies. We all do. We have staph, a whole variety of bacteria that will benignly, parasitically live on us in having a symbiotic relationship that keeps away other bugs and protects us. Well, in order for these bugs or our gut microbiome to do what it needs to do, it has to have exposure to bugs. It has to have exposure to pathogens, to dirt. When you eat an apple, you're not eating a sterile apple. We don't sterilize the apple. Now, what the space station eats is probably pretty close to that because you don't want bacteria growing. So their food is fairly cleaned, dried, as microbe-proof as possible. But when you eat an apple and you wash off the pesticides, which you should do, it's not sterile. So hopefully you're getting some of the natural bacteria that's out there that'll help coat your microbiome. They might not be getting that. And so the ISS astronauts, they were asked in this study to swap 803 different surfaces aboard the space station, bring the bacterial specimens back to Earth. Compared to most of the Earth samples, the ISS surfaces had far fewer microbes and were particularly lacking in environmental bugs usually found in soil and water. Well, our human bodies aren't used to that. Kids, they play in the mud, they play in the dirt. I used to get scrapes on my knees, and then my mom would use Bactine, which would sting, and then use mercurochrome. And so my scrapes would all be bright fluorescent pink. And she would do that so I wouldn't get an infection. And then I'd have to put a Band-Aid on it. She'd say, stay out of the dirt or you're going to get a whooping. But we kids would play. That's how we built up our immune systems. We look at all this chronic disease now in younger kids. Is it because they're sitting in front of a video? Is it because they're sitting in their parents' basement? And they're not outside climbing trees and playing? Now, I don't want kids getting staph. I don't want kids getting fungus. I don't want kids getting dirt into their mouths and eyes. I want them to play cleanly. But there might be something to kids raised like Gen X and baby boomers to kids raised as millennials and Gen Zs. And if we are seeing, diminishing health outcomes for these younger generations, as part of it, they aren't playing outside. They aren't around microbes. So the International Space Station can really provide some fascinating data on what happens to individuals when they're in a bubble or they're in a non or a microbe-free environment. Now, many Americans went through this with the lockdowns, and they even said, look, that didn't work for us. Now, some people did not get COVID, and they lived through the COVID scare, and they are, counting their blessings that they got to isolate. But what happened to the kids who didn't go back to school? People got fat. People got more doughy. They didn't get sun. In California, you got arrested for paddleboarding out in the sun. Our national parks were closed, so we couldn't go to the parks and go on the trails around Las Vegas. Are you kidding me? I think it affected a lot of our health. And in fact, an early study that came out with COVID showed the people who were homebound and locked down were more inclined to get COVID than those who were out and about. Why? Because they were confined. They were committed audiences. Somebody came home, gave it to them. They had no place to go. Not to mention their immune system was dropping. So we really need to find that fine balance between how to charge and prime our immune system, how to become and evolve to be stronger, and then have survival of the fittest, versus how to avoid some really, really nasty bugs that can take over. When I see somebody get vibriosis from swimming in an ocean because they have a cut on their leg, that's scary. When I see somebody get that from eating raw oysters, there was a lady who was shaving and her bikini area ended up giving herself a staph infection, had to go to the ICU, almost died. So there's a fine balance. We just need to figure out what that is. 1-877 Doc Dali.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.